Don't know why so many people refuse to play Scav. I think it's just an ego thing. So like me PMC, me run max kit. Scav like is my favorite way to play the game. If I could literally just have an account that is only a Scav and I didn't like have a cooldown, there's like some kind of like mini progression tied to it, I would play that all the time. That would be a Scav Lord. Yeah, there's gonna be a lot to look forward to. Sarah's right. Like DLC, more iterations of things, you know, more expanded content. Arena mode too. Like Arena is gonna be fucking awesome. I really can't wait to just go vibe on Arena, man, and just like run in and fight, because that's honestly like what I want to do right now. But you know, I want to do it as my Scav because, you know, I like going in with random shit and also with some decent guns. Exactly, man. It's jumping into an active game. I would agree, because you don't know anything. Like the only kind of information that you have is how long the raid has been going on, and that can kind of allow you to maybe guesstimate like where players have been, what has and hasn't been looted. You know, maybe if certain things haven't or have been activated. That's why I like the cycle so much. That core gameplay loop of like, you don't know who has looted what, where people are, you know, where the loot is, where the players are. You have none of that knowledge. None of that knowledge at all. And that's honestly how I feel like the entire game should function. Like there shouldn't be a timer that you see. You're just in your raid and you don't know like where shit is or where people are, and you don't know where people are spawning. Like you shouldn't know anything. You know, you should just have to spawn in and now you work your way into the raid from that location. I think that would just make EFT so much better overall. No, I think just a complete removal of the timer overall, Sorrow, would be cool, and just like raids just wouldn't function the same way. Just think of how the cycle does it, where people just kind of spawn in constantly, and there's like an event that happens that respawns loot on the map that is also very dangerous to the players, and then, you know, people just kind of keep spawning in as they die and whatnot. And there's no like raid timer; it doesn't end. It's just kind of a constant. Because the timer in Tarkov has a lot of problems. You know where people spawn in at the very beginning of the raid. People know where you spawn in at the very beginning of the raid, assuming they know the spawns, but most players will eventually learn them. You know where loot is. You know loot is respawned in specific areas. You kind of have a lot of this knowledge as soon as you're in the match. You already like kind of know a lot of this stuff. But the way the cycle handles it, you don't know fucking anything. You don't know where loot is. You don't know what has and hasn't been hit yet. You don't know where players are. You don't know anything. And it's just such an amazing format, I think, tied with the storm that happens that forces players to stop moving and take shelter and just like stop somewhere. If they're in a location that's high value loot, no loot will spawn there if they're like within a certain radius. And then once the storm ends, everywhere where the players are not, loot has respawned and players start moving around the map again. And, you know, now everything's kind of been refreshed. We're saying like the event in Tarkov could be like chemical mortars, regular mortars, in a combination of like infantry and mobile, you know, enemies of some kind. So like you'd have IFVs and like BTRs and shit rolling the streets on every map, essentially going through pretty slowly and shooting anything that's not a raider. And you have like raiders kind of coming in the map and like looking for PMCs to actively kill them. So you basically have to sit down, hunker down, kill raiders and not die by the tanks or artillery. And then now that you've stayed in the same spot, once all that's over, then you can start exploring the map and you kind of know like loot's respawning. And that would be like the one indication to where like, oh, okay, we managed to survive this good event. We have the knowledge of this is a fresh raid now, and all the loot's back. Assuming a player wasn't in a location where high value loot is, because that would be stupid if, you know, somebody's like, I'll just wait here at this spot where Ledex spawns, and a Ledex will spawn in front of me. It's like, no, if you're waiting there within a proximity of the player, nothing will spawn. So that way, it encourages them to explore outside of where they've taken shelter. So if the players are smart, if they know that's happening, they would hide in places where no loot is, so that it does spawn in the high value spots. But that means they also have to work back to get to that location, and obviously survive the event. It'd be fucking badass, honestly. Yeah, like a live cleanup crew or something like that, like straight up. Black Division, Raiders, whatever. The idea is really just to get the player to hunker down and stop moving, and it creates a very high level of danger within like the environment. But once it's over, then players can kind of go back to doing what they're doing. It's a little bit safer, but you know, there's loot, and then that way players can keep spawning constantly in a raid and never have to like reset it with a timer. You know what I mean? The raid would kind of like always be constant. Then obviously you'd have like a server restart of like 6 hours, and then it'd like, you know, that would just be like the actual server restart. But players would never really see that. They would never like see, you know, like, oh, server's restarting, get out or whatever. But obviously maybe there'd be alerts like, hey, server shut down 10 minutes, get out of the fucking raid or whatever. I just think that entire gameplay loop applied to Escape from Tarkov would literally make one of the most significant and positive changes to the core gameplay loop and enhance the dynamic by 10 times. Imagine spawning in factory and not having to worry about a dude down a fucking hallway or somebody like to your left or knowing that like somebody's going to be in like a forklift. Like you just won't know. You're in factory. Like people could be anywhere. They're not going to be there right at the beginning. But still, you should clear those angles and be safe. But you don't know that they're there, because most of the time that you do spawn in, you know that they're there, and they also know that you're there. You miss the days I worked for Tarkov? Honestly, bro, I don't. I made a lot of fucking mistakes back then, and you know, I did a lot of positive things for the game. I felt also did some negative things potentially in the perspective of others. But I'm glad I'm where I'm at right now, man. I'm happy because I made a lot of mistakes back then, and I've grown from them, and I've learned a lot more, and you know, I've become a little bit more seasoned. Feels good. No, I wasn't a developer. I was originally hired as their PR representative in the United States. And my original job was to acquire licensing agreements from companies, or basically permission from companies, so that BattleState could put their stuff in their game. EOTechs and suppressors and guns and whatever. And so while I was doing that job, before I actually did any licensing thing, anything like licensing related, or got any companies to like basically agree to put their stuff in the game, I found out that it was actually illegal for me to do that because I was serving in the United States military. I was in the Marine Corps Reserve. And since I was a part of the Department of Defense, I can't coordinate domestic firearm manufacturers and agencies to foreign entities of any kind. If I wasn't in the Marine Corps, totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, completely legal job to have. But I was like, hey, BSG, like, I can't do this. It's like literally like big no-no in the United States. And I'm glad I figured that out before I actually, you know, broke some Department of Defense laws, because that would have been pretty bad. And so they're like, oh, fuck. Well, of course we didn't know about this because, you know, we're Russian game development companies. They're not going to be like well-versed on, you know, laws in the United States specifically. And they moved me to a more of like a marketing position in their PR team. And that's essentially where I helped them just get people interested in the game, like get streamers interested, YouTubers interested, teach people the game, kind of coach them up. You know, I remember like teaching Shroud how to play the game for like 6 hours from like midnight to 6 a.m. Like off stream, just kind of getting him used to it because he was playing PUBG. And, you know, it was kind of like my job to just make sure that people are properly educated on the experience of Escape from Tarkov and can enjoy it. And if they do enjoy it, they keep playing it, you know, getting the game popular. And I did it very well. But I quit because some people who were going to be some, you know, basically people that I trusted very closely, near and dear, and I thought that really cared about me, fearmongered the shit out of me, and kind of like was like Russia bad propaganda, this and that in my head. And because I was a part of the military at the time, and like I figured out about those laws, like it really scared the shit out of me. And they made me call out BSG on some like licensing agreements. And I'm like, oh, you guys can't do that. You need licensing. When that like originally like my job, but I couldn't do that job because it was illegal. And then these guys like kind of essentially fearmongered me to call BSG out, and you know, basically convinced me that if I didn't do this, like I would go to the brig or something. I'd go to jail. And that, like I was young, dude. I was like 22 years old. You know, and these guys were like a lot older. I trusted them, but, you know, I really shouldn't have. And, you know, it made me do some really dumb things, and I made some mistakes. And that's pretty much like the whole process of, you know, my time at BSG and like what I did for them. And that's the truth. That's the honest truth. And not a lot of people know that. People just, you know, consider me just like some dude who bit the hand that fed them. And technically I did. Like I did. And, you know, the reasoning was, you know, at the end of the day, it was my choice, and I did that. But, you know, like I said, I was fucking scared shitless. When fear is something in the forefront of your mind, it's like having handlebars on your head. People can steer you around and kind of drive you and control the way that you think and the way that you do things for yourself. It's not fun. Nobody likes being scared. Yeah, man, it's life. You know, I make mistakes. I mean, I'm not like looking back like, oh man, I wish I'm still working at BSG, this and that. Like, I'm not like sad about it. Like, it is what it is. You know, and I've told this story to like Nikita, some of the guys at BattleState, and you know, I'm like, dude, I'm sorry. Like, you know, these are guys who knew like I helped them out, like I helped get their game out there, like I believed in their product and their game and their company and just the developers. And you know, it was definitely like, you know, kind of like stabbed in the back, and that's what it felt like, and I felt bad. But you know, I couldn't really see the blood until after. But you live and learn, and that's okay. And like me and Nikita are cool now. We still talk. Like I don't like necessarily like talk to them about the game all the time, or you know, get like inside information just because I don't really care to ask him any. You know, it's just not really my place. I don't give a fuck. And I just kind of play the game now and have fun. Trey says you're a chill dude, IRL, go figure. Yeah, dude. Yeah, me and Trey had a good time hanging out in New York, man. Trey's the homie. I could kick it with him whenever. And it's also fun to like like hang out and talk with just like other like, you know, Tarkov players and shit. Just like Josh about the game and stuff. Like Trey was telling me how he always gets hella frustrated with like the Tarkov Twitch stands, the Twitch chat stands that like come in and be like, why aren't you farming rogues? Why aren't you just running slick all the time? Or why aren't you running mutant? Blah, blah, blah. And he's like, bro, he's like, sometimes I just want to chill out and play the game and not be expected like I have to min-max every fucking single aspect about the game. I'm like, bro, I feel that. I feel that 100%. There's a couple years of my time playing Tarkov where like it felt like my entire Twitch chat was just constantly peckering me about playing the game differently. Even though like I played the game well, and like even this wipe, like, you know, I had a pretty good survival rate with my raids and like decent, you know, KD and shit, and you know, but people still kind of harp on you for just however the fuck you want to play. Why aren't you running fucking slick, dude? Like, bro, just let me fucking run my scav and, you know, use whatever fucking dog shit gear I feel like using and just like play the game and have fun and not feel like you have to just like push everything constantly. I just think people kind of forget when they watch games in general on Twitch and you go to certain streams, you can't just like expect them to cater or behave to a type of content you want to consume. You just kind of be present and know that, you know, however that streamer is making content within that moment, it's kind of on them. You know, that's how they want to handle things. Because when a streamer is like actually enjoying what they do, and like they're enjoying the game they're playing, that is like well received and noticed by the community, the people who are watching, and then therefore the viewers have a good time because like, oh, this guy's having a good time playing this. This is dope. Digging the vibes in here, and then, you know, they enjoy the content, they enjoy the environment that they're in.